Hey guys, welcome to the Fantasy Buckets podcast. I'm your host once again, as always, Jacob. Week 4 is in the books. We're going to be getting into week 5 now. Again, this is going to be waiver wire ads, waiver wire prospects that you can add to your team and help your fantasy output. Hopefully you're doing well. I'm 2-1, currently going to be 2-2 in one of my leagues, in one of the more important leagues, and Anthony Davis rested on me. I had some players hurt, so that's when you got to work your magic on the waiver wire. But I was edged out this week, but I'll take it like a man. It's part of fantasy, and bounce back next week. It was a great week. Great game between the Rockets and the Thunder. Rockets just went through a scoring drought in the fourth quarter, and Westbrook dropped the hammer on Capella and crushed our dreams of trying to win that game. It was a great game though, and it seems to be a trend with the Rockets kind of losing, not producing the offense that they do in the first half. So I'm not sure what D'Antoni's going to do to address that. I don't think it's the legs, and I don't think it's the stamina of the players getting tired as the game progresses. I just think maybe the other teams are just locking up because it's the fourth quarter, so defense is a lot more potent down the stretch. But that was a tough one. But we'll bounce back. Jeff Teague has been hooping lately. He's been doing great. He's had at least 20 plus fantasy points the last 4 games, and I think he just dropped 40 fantasy points today, which would be Sunday. Jimmy Butler balled out tonight too. Dwayne Wade sat, and he took one of those rest days that he's going to be having throughout the year. So if you're a Dwayne Wade owner, please look and expect that throughout the season. The coach will rest him. Serge Ibaka went back to the Thunder, and he had a game winner against his old team in that building. I know that had to feel good for him to see that switch through and put a dagger in the organization, at least temporarily, for that one game. Just as some payback. I'm sure that felt good to him. He sure did look happy after he did that. But man, let's get into the waiver wire prospects. First guy on my list today is going to be Will Barton with the Denver Nuggets. He averaged 35.2 minutes through his first 3 games. He came back on Sunday, and he started at the shooting guard position, so that's great news for him. Go ahead and pick him up. If somebody picked him up already, they're feeling great because they probably picked him up without knowing that he was going to start tonight. They didn't mention anything about a minutes restriction, so it seems like he's all systems go, and he's ready to ball out. Gary Harris, who is his only real competition at the shooting guard spot on that team, is out for 4 more weeks. So he's gonna be out, and Will Barton is gonna have plenty opportunity to produce. He was averaging 19.7 fantasy points before his injury, and he's scoop him up. If you hadn't scooped him up yet, scoop him up going into week 5. I'm not sure how Denver's schedule is looking, but I would scoop him up regardless if they have a heavy game schedule or game volume this week, because he potentially could be a permanent type player on your roster spot. He's not one of those dropping ad guys that you see dropping ad throughout. He could potentially be a guy that just stays permanently on your roster, and you keep him on your roster even on the days that he doesn't have games, because he has that type of potential. I'm not saying he's first round, second round potential, but he's around that third or fourth round. He does have that around that third or fourth round potential as far as value and what he can do. Especially with Gary Harris, man. He came in with a groin injury and sat out the beginning of the season, and now he's out with I think it's a leg injury now, and the guy can't seem to stay healthy, and it's just a rough start for him. He's out for a whole other month, maybe even longer. So pick up Will Barton. He's only 30.6% owned, and he would be a great fantasy waiver wire ad at the moment. It could potentially be, like I said, a good moment going forward, a good ad going forward. He has a shooting guard and small forward tag, so that always helps when they have multiple positions labeled under their player card. So yeah, let's get into the next guy. Next guy, I spoke about in my deep sleeper video, and he started out great, and then he got hurt, but he may be coming back soon. His name is Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin, point guard for the Brooklyn Nets. He's day-to-day. He's considered day-to-day. So what day-to-day means is that he could potentially come back anytime this week. I believe they have at least 3 games this week scheduled, the Brooklyn Nets do. And there hadn't been a report that he's going to come back, but he is day-to-day. And there hasn't been a report saying that he's not going to come back. So if you want to be the early bird and can afford to stash him on your team, say you're 3-1, say you're 4-0 already, if you can afford to stash him and you need some point guard help, then by all means go for it and stash him. You know what he brings to the table. Sean Kilpatrick has had an opportunity to flourish while Jeremy Lin's been hurt. Rondé Hollis Jefferson had some flashes of some good games, and his production has kind of regressed over the last couple games. Bogdanovich has been getting some points, putting some points on the board the last couple games. But Jeremy Lin, besides Brook Lopez, Jeremy Lin is the guy for that team. He is that perimeter option, the number one perimeter option on that team. Brook Lopez, of course, is the post player and the big man inside, who also steps out and shoots a little bit. But Jeremy Lin is the focal point of that whole offense. He's the maestro. He's the conductor, and he was averaging 15 points, 6.2 assists, 3.8 rebounds, and 1.4 steals before he got hurt. So if you want to be the early bird and stash him, pick him up. They'll be talking about him next week in next week's waiver wire prospects, saying that he'll come back, or they might have missed. He might just come back on Wednesday, and you might have him on your roster because you scooped him up, and you'll be thankful that you picked him up early. So it's a risk. You know, you'll be risking that roster spot and time and games that you won't be able to play. But that's why I say it's kind of team dependent. But if you can stash them and you have the patience to, you feel like you can work around, you know, losing that one roster spot for the interim, or if you have it wouldn't be injured reserve, but if you have space for him on your bench and you can do it, I would, because I think he'll be coming back soon. And like Will Barton, he could be one of those type of players that is a permanent roster spot on your team. So Jeremy Lin, if you need some point guard help, he's only a point guard. I thought he used to have point guard, shooting guard as his tag, but I guess this season he's only point guard. So look for him, and he'd be a great waiver wire ad if you feel like being an early bird. You know, the early bird gets the worm. Next guy on my list is very low key. Is the lowest key balling guy that I've added to one of these segments thus far. His name is Jonathan Gibson. And you're probably like, who the hell is that? Jonathan Gibson, shooting guard for the Dallas Mavericks. He has only played his second game in the NBA. He's only played 2 games in the NBA thus far. He played in China last year, and he balled out in China for the 2015-2016 season. He was getting buckets out there. He played in the Las Vegas Summer League over the summer, this past summer, and he impressed a lot of folks. He impressed the Dallas folks because they signed him, and then they waived him right before the season started. So that was kind of an iffy situation, but he at least built that relationship with the organization. And now that J.J. Barea is out with the calf injury, Darren Williams is out with the calf injury, Devin Harris is still suffering from a toe injury, it was easy for him to be brought back because they had already built that relationship with him over the summer league, and they knew what he was at least capable of over the summer. So his first game, he played about 20 minutes and he had about 11 points and a few other stats. Nothing crazy. He played about 30 minutes in the second game and he exploded for 26 points. He exploded for 26 points in his second NBA game, which was great. He's currently backing up Seth Curry, and I said Seth Curry, not Steph Curry. Seth Curry, the brother, and Seth Curry is not Steph Curry. Seth Curry has struggled offensively, and he's been playing a lot of minutes. He's been playing a whole bucket load of minutes, and he really hasn't done much with it. So Jonathan Gibson comes in his second game in the NBA and scores 26 points. So he may have just earned himself some more playing time, and if Seth Curry continues to struggle, Jonathan Gibson for the interim with all these injuries would be a great add and could give you some great points off of the bench. Again, this guy is kind of a flyer pick. You're kind of just going to pick him up to see how it goes. If you want to take a chance on him as an option. But hey man, he dropped 26 points, and Seth Curry, who is the only other option right now, has really struggled and has struggled to score in the double digits. So I don't see why not. I don't see why this guy wouldn't be a good pick. And he is currently 0% owned. So he is available. If you're scrolling down the waiver wire list and you're thinking, who should I plug in today? This guy's out. This guy's out. Who, you know how you scroll down and you look through all these players. Man, take a flyer on him, man. If you're undecided and you just want to plug someone in, plug in Jonathan Gibson and see what happens. You just never know. And he is he's got the shooting guard tag as his label, as his position label. Next guy on the list. Is Jon Leuer, power forward for the Detroit Pistons. He's averaged 15 plus fantasy points over his last 5 games. He's the number one option off of Detroit's bench, and he averages 26.8 minutes per game. So he's getting plenty burn as a bench player, and he's the number one guy off the bench for Detroit. I've always liked his game. He's kind of been a journeyman around the NBA the last couple years, but he's always seemed like a solid player to me. I liked him in Phoenix. He can stretch out and shoot the three. He's got some boings to him. He's got that sneaky athletic tag, but I've always liked his game. I've always thought he's been a great power forward and a role player. He seems like he just takes care of business when he's in the game. He struggled from 3-point. He struggled with his 3-point shot at the beginning of the season, but recently he's found his touch and he's been making some threes over the last 4 or 5 games, which is great. Adds to his value. He averages 10 points per game, 6.9 rebounds, 1.4 assists, half a steal, and a little bit more than half a block. So he'll touch those other stats. He'll touch the assist, steal, and block stats, but he mainly produces points and rebounds with the double-digit points and almost 7 rebounds per game. And like I said, he has made some 3-pointers the last couple games, so that's also a great thing. He's currently only owned in 21.4% of leagues, so he's available to about 80% of you guys. Jon Leuer, he's a power forward, Detroit Pistons. Markieff Morris just recently suffered an ankle injury. If he were to sit, Jon Leur's value goes up. It skyrockets. I wouldn't say skyrockets. Maybe that's a little exaggeration, but it definitely jumps up and it clocks up a bit if Morris misses some time. And just keep an eye on that for the season, because anytime Morris were to miss, or the small forward position were to miss, Jon Leuer would definitely get some more burn, because Morris could also slide down to the small forward, and I'm sure they could plug Jon Leuer in the power forward position. I'm sure Van Gundy wouldn't mind doing that. So yeah, definitely somebody to be aware of on the waiver wire. I wouldn't say like Lynn or like Barton that he could be a permanent player on your roster, but he's a great plug and play guy when you need somebody to play, for a day or a couple days, or just whatever you need as far as acquisitions throughout the week. The only way I would see him being a permanent type of player for your roster is if Markieff Morris got hurt, or if Markieff Morris got in the doghouse, in Van Gundy's doghouse, and was being benched. Currently, the way Monroe seems to be in Milwaukee, which is a whole other situation. But yeah, Jon Leuer is a great acquisition. Look for him in week 5. Adam, he's only 21.4% owned, like I said, and scoop him up. Finally, last guy on my list is gonna be Ish Smith. Ish Smith, someone who I also mentioned in my Deep Sleeper video. He's a point guard for the Detroit Pistons. Don't drop him yet. Hold on to him. Stan Van Gundy reported that Reggie Jackson is still out for a couple weeks. That could potentially be even longer. And Ish Smith is a great option right now. He's been producing. He scored in the double digits in the last 5 games. Along with that, he's had 6 assists, 3.7 rebounds, 1.3 steals. So he gives you that great production. He doesn't. I don't think he's top 16 points this season yet, but he's been in between the 10 and 14 point range. And then along with the other stats, he gives you a nice fantasy day all around. And when those 10 or 14 points come effectively, it makes the fantasy production even better, and he gives you an even better fantasy day. He could share the backcourt with Reggie Jackson when he returns. The last video I mentioned Tim Frazier and Drew Holiday, and I kind of touched on that. Drew Holiday came back and looked like he hadn't missed a step. He's balled out his first 2 games, but the key factor of that is that Tim Frazier has also balled out, and Tim Frazier has not really seen a huge decrease in his minutes. He's actually been playing alongside Drew Holiday. So the same thing could happen here with Ish Smith and Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson, they could use at the shooting guard position and have Ish Smith run the show. That's all dependent. Like I said, it's always good to be patient and not jump the gun and miss out on an opportunity where Ish Smith's production could probably even increase. And it's not. I wouldn't say it's likely, but it's possible. So just patience is a virtue, and stick with that. Ish Smith, don't drop him yet. He still holds value, and he definitely holds value for a couple more weeks. But even if Reggie Jackson does come back, he could still hold value. So be cognizant of that, and hold on to the guy. He's a point guard for Detroit Pistons. He's only 33.7% owned. 33.7% owned. Another, just, and that's all I have for the waiver wire ads. Last couple videos, like I've mentioned in the last video and a couple videos before, there's waiver wire prospects that I've included in there that are still available. To not reiterate what I've said in past videos, I'm trying to bring new guys to the forefront. And yeah, just, you know, check those videos out if you'd like to have some more options as far as waiver wire ads and plug and play guys. Thoughts on Greg Monroe? I'm a Greg Monroe owner myself. Not sure what the situation with that is, but I'm not going to drop Greg Monroe. He's too talented of a guy. He either works things out with Jason Kidd or he doesn't fit in that offense. But the best scenario would probably be if he got traded. He got traded to somebody and could garner some minutes. Because he's a great post player, but maybe they want to play more of an up and down type of offense. And Antetokounmpo and Jabari Parker have been hooping. They've been hooping great. Like I mentioned earlier, Jeff Teague has been hooping. He seems like he's found his mojo and he's got his groove back. He ain't stellar, but he's got his groove back. Yeah, man, let's keep plugging. Let's keep pushing. Keep working that waiver wire. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. Look forward to the next waiver wire prospects for next week. And like I said, like, share, subscribe. You look for me on Twitter. You know, I put updates on there as far as injuries and plug and play guys daily, if there is injuries. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks.